Questions? Maybe they want questions. You think questions would be a good idea? You just want me to leave you alone? Okay. Welcome back, fellow riders, and welcome if this is your first time to the channel.
A virgin.
Today's video is brought to you by you and the questions in the comment sections that you guys have asked in the comments below. Getting to know you guys in the comment section, and even cooler, getting to know you guys trackside. This past weekend at the South event, I got the opportunity to meet this cool gentleman, so I took some footage of him going through registration and tech. So, as they say in YouTube, without further ado, let's get the questions started. I lied. First, we're gonna have a quick coffee break. The first question comes from Seven Harake. How many fingers? Whoa, hold on a second, buddy. This is a family-ish channel. Oh wait, never mind. How many fingers do you use for clutch, brake, and how do you downshift smoothly with an auto blip on? Without an auto blip. Okay, that took me a while. I was like, dude, you just send it with an auto blip. Auto blip, that's its job, is to smooth it out for you. If you don't have an auto blip, then it's rev matching. So when you're downshifting, you want to give it gas at the same time so that you can rev match to make it a little bit smoother. Otherwise, you're gonna have your back end dancing around. As far as the fingering question, that's really up to your comfort. So I use one finger for braking and one or two fingers for my clutch. Sometimes if I'm doing some heavy braking, I'll add in my ring finger alongside my middle finger. In the MotoGP world, I've seen all from 4 fingers to 1 finger.
I will continue with my three finger.
So ultimately that tells me whatever you're more comfortable with. I personally think the less fingers, the more feeling you have. This is a weird conversation I'm having about fingers. My recommendation more than anything is that you don't waste any energy going over the levers. So I see a lot of riders having their levers a little too high. And after so many laps, your fingers start to get tired having to reach for your lever. So the only recommendation I would have there is have them low enough. Cena J675R. What does the bike feel like when your entry speed and trail braking is at the best potential in a corner? Well, the bike feels the same, hard. The bike doesn't really ever change as far as how it feels. It always feels hard, and sometimes it gets wet. It's raining, obviously. When I had stock suspension, for me, I started finding the limits when you're trail braking and your front end is kind of dancing around. What you can do there is adjust your suspension. Upgraded suspension, that's gonna be night and day as far as the motorcycle feeling planted when you're in there. So the limit is going to feel different for everyone. Once you start reaching that limit, it's trailing to the apex while the motorcycle is fighting for traction on that front tire. These next 6 questions were very similar. It seemed to be the most asked question, and I'm going to spend the most time on this one. So, John Venkak, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, and Alan McClark, Gravity Rider Melbourne, Edgar, Inkzilla, and Tutel Negrito all had similar questions about going from a straightaway high speed to a slow turn. So basically the braking zone into corner entry. John asked, how do you find the courage to push through the turn, trust the bike and the tires? Alan asked, he's struggling with chicanes, going from high speed to low speeds. Gravity Rider Melbourne is lean angle, break through the mental barrier of knowing the limits. Do I need to send the bike to find the limits? Any videos in downshifting and brake zone from Edgar. Inkzilla really is what inspired this video. Hello Inkzilla, hope you're well. Video on gear selection and slow turns from fast to the slow turn, and Tutel Negrito asking for reference points. I think this question comes up a lot because of the drastic change in speed going from 150, 180, depending if you're on a 600, 1000 to 50 miles an hour in such a short time. You can really meet Jesus quickly in that situation. motorcycle, I think the first thing to attack is the mindset, since mental barrier was used and courage was used in another one. It's the mindset to help us build on courage. Once you have that plan in place, attack what you want to do. So you want to get better at this particular situation of high speed to low speed. Then hyper focus on that turn. So the first step would be early setup. Before you even get on the brakes, or as you're getting on the brakes, you move your cheek over so you're set up for the turn. Every time you're making any kind of input with your body on the motorcycle, take note of what's around you. Reference point. When I'm sliding off the seat of the saddle, where am I? My brake marker 6? Okay, take note of that. I'm at brake marker 6. So at the next time around, you have a place to improve upon, or at least be consistent upon. Next step is, where are you applying the brakes? Is it in between 5 and 6? Is it at 6? And when you apply the brakes, it's very, very slow initial pressure followed by the hard brake. You want to load the front tire and the suspension as much as possible instead of just hitting it very abruptly and not being able to smoothly load the suspension and the tire. This also gives you a greater chance of washing out the front end if you're too abrupt and hard on it. For the third tip, you want to get your downshifting out of the way as quick as possible so you don't have to worry about anything once you get into corner entry. So get those downshifts early and out of the way. And as you're entering into the turn, gear selection depends on your motorcycle. It depends on the turn. So you want to play around with gear selection, playing around with second gear, third gear. The lower the gear, the more aggressive exit you're going to have. The higher the gear, the more corner speed you're going to be able to enter with. You don't want it to be so extreme where it's very, very twitchy, aggressive, and you also don't want to have a lack in the power band as you're coming out of the corner where you're just waiting to get on the gas because you're in too high of a gear. So you want to select that gear that gives you that good drive out of the corner. Turn in, here again, you want to pick a reference point so that you can improve upon the next time you come in. If you're hitting the apex too early and finding that you have to pick the bike up, you've turned in too early. So next time around, wait to turn in. If you find yourself having to get back on the gas or coasting, then you're taking the turn too slow, and you know that you can increase your brake marker so you can have quicker entry speed. The next step is hitting that apex. Knee over the curbing is a good place to start. And once you know you're going to get to that point, it's training your vision to look for the next point. You don't want to be staring at that apex until you've already reached the apex and your knee is over it. You want to be looking farther ahead and using your peripheral vision, knowing, okay, I'm over the apex and getting on the gas. And again, knowing where you're getting on the gas so you know, can I get on the gas earlier as I'm exiting this turn? Do I need to change my lines? If you're coming up to the exit and you have plenty of track on your left-hand side, you know that you could have gotten the gas a little bit earlier. If you have this game plan and you have these steps, then you can work on and improve these things. If you have no idea what you're doing, when you're doing it, on the track, it's going to be very difficult to build from that. And so for me, confidence comes from the consistency of being able to do those steps and improving on those. And so you don't need to send it necessarily to find the limits. You can find the limits by slowly increasing all these areas. And if you do it smooth enough, you don't have to crash to find the limits. You can get away with a save, as they say. So you can start to feel the rear spinning, or you can feel the front end push and bring it back. Not always, but that's where you can start finding the limits and gaining a little bit more confidence and trust in yourself, tires, and the motorcycle. A boy named Kuno. Hello there, boy named Kuno. What's the right thing to do when you notice you're going wide like this? Could you have downshifted and leaned it, dragged knee into the right? I think that really depends on the situation. So this situation, I was pushing for hot laps, which when you're pushing, you give yourself less room for error. When you're not pushing and you come into this situation because of whatever reason, you missed a shift, a brain fart, sometimes you have enough space and margin to recover and be able to catch a downshift and throw it into the right. If it's low traction conditions in the morning or if it's raining, you don't really have that much of an option to do an aggressive turn in. And so sometimes the best thing to do is just to run it off. Don't stab the front brake, lightly on the rear brake, let the motorcycle kind of ride itself out. If I have enough time, I would want to turn to see if there's anybody coming. before I get back onto the race line. So being as careful as possible, as smooth as possible is my recommendation. And just, there's been a light change. Video, I didn't have my YouTube light on. I mean, what good is this video if I don't have one of those colorful lights? I mean, that's what YouTube is all about, right? And then the like and subscribe, of course. Be sure to use your clutch and throttle hand to like this video or subscribe for future content. That's pretty good, right? I mean, that somewhat flowed into there. M. Lauer or Lower 312 talks about or asks about adjusting pace for wet condition. How hard is it raining? Is it just sprinkling? Do you have rain tires on? Do you have slicks on? Do you have street tires on? A lot of these will dictate how hard you can push in those conditions. I believe this is why the reference points will help you out to kind of gauge traction conditions. So if you already have a reference point in the brake zone in the dry that is brake marker 3, then you know if it's raining, we'll start off at brake marker 6 and take it from there. And if you realize that, I was really slow in that corner, I was coasting, I had to almost give it gas as I was going into the apex, then you know you can push a little bit further in and push the brake markers a little bit further that way. Riding in the rain is very similar to riding in the cold. It's just low traction conditions. You want to get most of your braking while your motorcycle is up and down and trail gently and lightly into the corner. If you have any questions yourself, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And please do consider using your clutch or throttle hand to like this video. Check out this video right here. I am pretty biased. I think it's a pretty awesome video if I don't say so myself, or this one which YouTube recommends for you. I'll see you next video.